17 Accidental Inventions. 17. Once you start, you can't stop. And that's how it goes with crisps. These super delicious, highly addictive snacks were made initially as an insult. A patron at a popular hotel complained about his soggy fried potatoes in 1853. The story unfolds that the cook was so annoyed that he cut the potatoes super thin, plonked them into oil, and covered them with salt. However, instead of being offended, the customer loved them, and so the potato chip was born. 16. Sheer luck. We can thank a Canon engineer for the invention of inkjet printers. It's been said that he rested his hot iron on his pen accidentally, and the ink spurted out his pen a few moments later. And that was how he created the inkjet printer. 15. Thank goodness. Frank Epperson was just a small boy in 1905, and he was trying to make his own soda pop, which had just become pretty popular. He accidentally forgot his concoction outside overnight, and it froze with a stirring stick still inside. And that was apparently the very first ice lolly. 14. What are the chances? So back in the 1900s, shellac was used for insulation, which is made from the Southeast Asia beetles, and you can imagine was very costly. So Hendrik Baekeland tried to come up with a cheaper alternative, but instead of recreating the shellac, he accidentally made a moldable material that could withstand high heat without becoming distorted. Welcome plastic. 13. Kids play. So what was originally meant to be a doughy clay that people could use to clean the soot from their coal-burning homes strangely turned out to become Play-Doh. Its creator was Joseph McVicker, and he learned that his sister was using the same dough in her classroom for her kids, and he then decided to market it as a product for kids and became a millionaire. 12. Keep calm and beam on. Henry Becquerel was a physicist, and in 1896, he was attempting to produce X-rays with fluorescent materials being left in the sun. After a spell of bad weather, he popped his materials into a drawer. When he opened the drawer a week later, he discovered the uranium rock left there had imprinted its image onto a photographic plate, despite it not being exposed to light. And that was apparently the beginning of radiation. 11. All fun and games. Thanks to a naval engineer, Richard Jones, kids have been enjoying the Slinky since 1943. He was undertaking the mammoth task of designing a meter to monitor power on battleships when he accidentally dropped a spring. It bounced from one place to the next, and that was the birth of the Slinky. 10. Color My World. Instead of curing malaria, chemist William Perkin mistakenly created the color mauve. It was 1856 when he was creating a drug with tree bark, and although unsuccessful, his failed attempt resulted in a slimy purple substance. The color caught his attention, and it also became the first synthetic dye ever created. 9. I have a headache. And if you did, you wouldn't think to reach for a Coca-Cola, would you? Pharmacist John Pemberton was living in Atlanta in the 1880s, and he was working on Pemberton's French wine cocoa, a syrup made from wine and cocoa to cure headaches. At around the same time, soda fountains were springing up all over town and becoming popular, as alcohol was then banned in Atlanta. So the wine was substituted with carbonated water, and a different angle of approach was taken. There are differing versions of the story on the net, but basically, what was initially meant to be used for medicinal purposes ended up being the most successful beverage in the entire world. 8. Life-changing discovery. It was thanks to Scottish-born Alexander Fleming that penicillin was invented. It was 1928 when he was working in his lab, and he accidentally left his petri dish containing Staphylococcus open. When he eventually saw the dish, the Staphylococcus had blue-green mold growing in it. He realized the mold had released a substance that caused the bacteria to disintegrate, and from there he created a pure culture, and penicillin was created. 7. Best invention ever. Chocolate chip cookies were an accidental creation of Ruth Wakefield, who was just trying to make some chocolate cookies. It was 1930 when she began making a batch of these chocolate cookies and realized she had no baker's chocolate. So she took some sweet chocolate and broke it into little pieces and popped them into the cookie dough. She assumed they would melt, but was pleasantly surprised when they remained intact. And for that, we are forever grateful. 6. Playtime. Silly putty didn't have such a silly beginning. It was a synthetic substitute for rubber during World War II. It was created by James Wright in 1943. It could stretch, bounce, and be manipulated into any shape imaginable. Unfortunately, the government were not too keen on the product, but an unemployed Peter Hodgson saw a golden opportunity. He borrowed some money, bought the rights to the product, and packaged it into little plastic eggs, just in time for Easter. Soon, every single kid wanted Silly Putty, and it became one of the best and fastest selling toys in America's history. 5. Stuck like glue. That's what Dr. Spencer was trying to create, a super adhesive. But he didn't quite manage that. It was 1968, and what he instead managed to create was a low-tack adhesive that could be reused and was pressure sensitive. He tried for years to market this invention, but had no luck. Then his friend decided to use his product to mark his page in his hymnal, inadvertently creating the very first Post-it. Now, you can't imagine a world without them, can you? 4. Sweet as candy. Saccharin was the accidental invention of Konstantin Fahlberg. At the time, in 1879, he was trying to find new uses for coal tar. Saccharin is said to be 300 to 400 times sweeter than regular sugar. After a long day at the lab, he ate a cookie his wife made and realized they were much sweeter than usual. It was because of ingredients left behind on his hands, and immediately he requested a patent. And now it's been used to sweeten products like sodas, candies, toothpaste, and more. 3.